In the middle of the Siberian wilderness, a scruffy-looking man wanders aimlessly while visibly afflicted by an unknown condition, indicated by his bleeding eyes. Upon reaching the river, he collapses and starts convulsing repeatedly. As the man drowns, a woman, Anna, awakens from a nightmare. She is comforted by her partner, Sergei, a divorced dad. Though wanting to spend the whole Sunday with him, he is scheduled to meet with his son, Anton, accompanied by his ex-wife Irina and his mother-in-law at the park. While taking the kid on a playground, Sergei is berated by Irina for wanting their son to stay in his new home with Anna, who she despises for stealing him away from her. As they continue arguing while packing things in the car, a man is seen convulsing on the ground, prompting onlookers to come to his aid, including Irina's mother. In another part of town, Sergei's friend, Leonid, is retrieving his wayward daughter, Polina, from a rehabilitation clinic after some time. Before leaving, she disposes of a bunch of drug paraphernalia and a few personal items. Along the drive home, she continues showing resentment toward her dad, who aims to rebuild their broken relationship, much to the dismay of his pregnant wife, Marina. Meanwhile, Sergei and Anna prepare to go to their home for an evening bacchanalia. Joining them is Anna's son, Misha, who has autism. Upon returning home from playing with his drone, he looks out the window and becomes visibly infatuated with Polina as she prepares to leave the car. Later at dinner, everyone is in high spirits except for Anna, who loathes Leonid for his tactless personality and utter disregard for Sergei's emotional stress. Aware of Misha's crush on her, Polina tries to entice him by rubbing her feet on his leg, only to push the boy to leave abruptly. She follows him right after being scolded by her dad for her behavior. While Misha flies his drone to her room window, Polina seductively teases him by wetting her top before taking it off to expose her breasts, much to the boy's shock. Meanwhile, the dinner does not end well as Anna becomes fed up with Leonid's arrogance and storms out. As the couple retires in the bedroom, they become alarmed by a news interview with virologist Professor Pokemov, explaining the symptoms a person can undergo when exposed to a newly discovered pathogen that has caused outbreaks all over Russia. As the professor corrects the interviewer for misinterpreting the number of infections, the broadcast gets cut by a commercial. The following day, Irina is at her office, aware of the situation with the fast-spreading virus. While refreshing her face, she discovers a dead body in one of the bathroom cubicles. She immediately leaves the building and heads straight for Anton's school, which is already surrounded by armed law enforcement trying to contain the situation. A masked officer is escorted by one of the teachers inside the gymnasium to quarantine the school children away from an infected little girl hiding in a classroom. She is sprayed with a chemical and brought inside an ambulance to be transported to a research facility, much to her father's protest. After witnessing the situation, Irina calls Anton and asks him to leave the locker room and meet at the cafeteria. She also calls Sergei to let them know where they are, but he is stuck in traffic due to an emergency blockade preventing citizens from crossing into Moscow. Afterward, unable to open the windows, Irina throws a rock and sets Anton free from the school grounds. Meanwhile, Leonid prepares to evacuate his family, but Polina informs him the airlines have shut down. Later, the teen girl sends Misha a conspiracy theorist's video about the virus and its effects on society. Sometime in the middle of the night, Sergei gets an unscheduled visit from his father, Boris, who is deeply concerned with the welfare of the couple now that there is unrest in the streets of Moscow. He warns them that they must evacuate before looters invade their rural area. While they sleep until morning, Anna asks Sergei to promise never to leave her, which he does not follow through with as he secretly slips out to save Irina and Anton, with only his dad knowing. Meanwhile, upon getting a visit from her mother, Irina is shocked and disheartened to see her eyes turning white, indicating she has become infected. She keeps her away before asking Anton to hide. Some hours pass and Anna awakens to find Sergei's letter explaining his disappearance. Suddenly, Boris alerts the family upon seeing masked individuals exiting a van and entering Leonid's house. Believing they are law enforcement, the man lets them inside only to discover they are Moscow citizens preparing to loot their house. After knocking Leonid unconscious, the men look around while a colleague attempts to assault Marina sexually. Fortunately, Polina appears and stabs the intruder with scissors in the neck before forcing him down to kill him during a struggle. Meanwhile, Boris shoots at one of the assailants with a shotgun, forcing them to retreat temporarily. Anna then rushes to the neighbor's house to find Misha already there, equipped with a firearm while everyone else is safe. While they evacuate, Sergei arrives in Moscow with a coerced driver willing to transport him, Irina, and Anton out for some money. However, after Sergei rescues his ex-wife and son, he is horrified to return to the parking lot and see the driver killed. Suddenly, masked men with weapons appear and attempt to attack them, only for Sergei to drive off in time. He makes it past the checkpoint, angering the border patrol, who discover him smuggling a Moscow citizen. They return to the neighborhood shortly after everyone is finished packing up for evacuation. After some awkward introductions, Anna agrees to help Irina keep warm. Upon getting a coat, Irina berates her, revealing she has not forgiven her for stealing Sergei away. Suddenly, after Sergei returns for Anna, the group of assailants return and chase the couple on the snowy street with their vehicles while firing at them. They shoot the couple dead, only to find out they killed the wrong couple and mistakenly ended up in another village. Meanwhile, Sergei's group is flagged down by a Moscow citizen needing help to assist his wife in labor. However, Irina and Leonid do not trust him, threatening the man to leave or be killed. Sergei apologizes and requests he finds help in Solnekhnogorsk before Marina gives him pain medication for his wife. Shortly after looking for a spare gas canister, Irina confronts Sergei about not being able to ride in his car, as Anton is visibly frightened without his father. As the boy begs to come along, Anna becomes slightly sympathetic and decides to join Boris in his car, while the mother and son join Sergei. The convoy leaves as the drivers equip themselves with walkie-talkies to communicate effectively on the road. Unfortunately, Boris's truck breaks down along the way due to the cold weather. He requests a tow line from the group, with Leonaya offering one. However, upon hearing that they will be traveling to the region of Karelia, he suddenly hesitates and hides the spare tow line, claiming he will need to go back to his house to get it. As he and his family depart, he explains to Marina that he has no intention of going back, believing the group will not survive the 1,000-mile trip. Meanwhile, the armed men break into his house, with one of the men focusing on killing Leonid for the death of his brother at the hands of Polina. They head out north and see his vehicle parked along the ride due to Marina's insistence on taking a bathroom break in the woods. They immediately search the car, but find no one inside, so Polina flees to warn her dad and stepmother. After confirming the Escalade's license plate, the gunmen scour the woods for the family hidden under a cliffside. One of the men complains about the search, leading to a fierce argument with a senior officer who gets killed for his behavior. The group leader decides to call off the search temporarily, but shoots the other man to make it look like the two gunmen killed each other. Though fortunate to escape, the family is now lost and cannot travel back to the group without the car. Meanwhile, after Sergei tries reaching Leonid through the walkie-talkie, Irina confides her regret for sending her infected mother away from her home. Anna hears their heartfelt conversation in the next car as Anton accidentally turns on the walkie-talkie. At the same time, Anna feels disheartened by their moment together, and Leonid radios in to ask for help. Sergei, accompanied by both Irina and Anna, leaves Boris behind to fetch the family. Upon reaching their location, Leonid explains their misfortune after getting chased by the armed goons. Irina is quite hesitant to let them inside the car because there is no room, but Anna is more sympathetic to the plight and insists they come on board. As a compromise, Sergei brings them to the nearest gasoline station so that they can hitch a ride with other stranded citizens. After taking them there, he waits and watches him and his family as Leonid desperately inquires about a means of transport to Petersburg. Unfortunately, things at the station take a dark turn when a coffin man is suspected of having the disease and is stabbed by one of the people in the area. Everyone flees, including Sergei's family, leaving behind Leonid and his family. Fortunately, they are taken inside by the gas station attendant, who has decided to wait out the infection and offers to keep them warm for the night. However, during his conversation with the family, he is visibly infatuated with Polina, as he offers to give her an alcoholic drink. Leonid steps in to confront the man, who becomes enraged and sends them out. Shortly after, Sergei and the group return to check with Boris, who found a way to start his car by warming up the diesel. Somehow, he is persuaded to return for Leonid, not wanting to carry Irina's guilt for turning her mother away. As Marina becomes frantic with their predicament, Polina sees the convoy headed towards them. While Anna takes the women inside the car, Sergei tells Leonid they will need proper diesel fuel to make their cars last for the long journey ahead. The two men then devise a plan to invade the gas station. Sergei approaches the window and tries convincing the attendant to sell them fuel in exchange for a couple of bucks in his expensive watch. As he reaches out to inspect the item, Sergei pulls out his arm as Leonid and Boris shoot down the door and grab the canisters of spare diesel from the shelves. As the men leave the store, Misha attempts to approach the civilian killed earlier and reveals to Anna that he has not been infected due to his eyes looking normal. With that revelation, the men decide to load the dead man's abandoned van with the fuel supply while Leonid drives in on the convoy. Before departing, he apologizes to Sergei for his actions before cracking another indecent joke about his wife. Shortly after they return to the road, Boris talks about housing everyone in an abandoned wrecked ship turned into a safe house on a frozen island in Von Gozero. Its secluded location will help the group stay off-grid until the end of the outbreak. Suddenly, a mysterious man is heard coughing in the middle of their conversation on the radio. Introducing himself as Igor, he apologizes for intercepting their signal while waiting for his family, who is implied to have succumbed to the virus. Accepting his death and wanting to see his loved ones again, he requests prayers, which Boris recites, followed by another lengthy Christian prayer from Misha. The group becomes silent as they listen to the words and accept the harsh reality they are living in. Some hours later, the group makes a pit stop in the woods and sets up a big tent so they can rest for the night. While Misha steps out to pee, Polina follows and requests that he find her some liquor to get her loose enough to have sex with him and beat the cold weather. At dawn, after packing up, Irina is disheartened to see Sergei invite Anna and Misha on board instead of her and Anton. He makes a promise to his son that they can switch on the next before leaving. Not long after, the group's convoy halts to see a number of abandoned vehicles blocking the road. As the men start searching, they see some dead bodies and blood smeared on the side of the trucks. They take out a dead body from one of the trucks so that Sergei can drive it away from the road. Suddenly, he hears a slight growl from the back of his seat and discovers a badly injured man bleeding from his mouth. Upon checking him, however, he gets attacked in the stomach, making him fall out of the truck and lose blood. As the group frantically takes him inside the car, Sergei becomes euphoric and hallucinates Irina caressing him in a field of grass. Anna takes over the driving as Irina tries to keep him awake. Moments later, Boris and Misha lead the group to an abandoned house. They bring the injured man inside the den as Anna looks for sewing needles to stitch the wound. Suddenly, a frightened man, Igor, appears from the next house, compelling Anna to ask for a few supplies. Upon retrieving the needle and thread, Irina volunteers to sew up the wound, requesting alcohol, which Boris finds in a stack of moonshine. Anna helps restrain a pained Sergei as Irina uses a double-stitch method to close the wound, learning it from her experience stuffing duck. After the operation, Boris and Misha talk outside the porch. The old man confesses his weaknesses as a father to Sergei, as he remembers focusing more on working for his family than taking care of his son. Their strained relationship deepened after his alcoholism due to his unemployment after the collapse of the perestroika. As he throws out the remaining moonshine on the snow, Misha then persuades him to quit drinking altogether. Meanwhile, Anna and Irina have a serious talk about Sergei while he recuperates. The latter reveals that he left her due to sexual depravity caused by her depression over an Ersis incompatibility diagnosis after giving birth to Anton. She reveals her regret of not being able to sleep with Sergei for months, leading him to fall for Anna instead. As Irina leaves to return to the house, Anna becomes shocked to see Igor waiting by the car and requesting some food. He gives him 2 canned meat as his eyes widen at the sight of the food supplies in the back of the car. Later at night, as Leonid and Marina talk about what they will do to survive moving forward, Polina spends her free time using her smartphone inside a van. Misha arrives, offering her an alcoholic frozen treat while revealing he has never indulged in liquor. The playful young girl tempts him by putting ice on her body and letting him feed on it. As the boy vomits in disgust over the alcohol, Polina sees a mysterious figure staring at the pair but disappearing shortly after. Meanwhile, while Sergei continues experiencing chills due to his infection, Boris checks in on him for Anna to search around the grounds. He pleads with his son to hang on despite being told to take the group away if he starts succumbing to the infection. As stress builds up, Boris leaves to seek more moonshine and drown his sorrows under the guise of looking for Misha. While rummaging through the crates, Leonid accidentally bumps into him and requests to study his map. Later, while everyone is asleep, he sneaks out with a shotgun and pickpockets Anna's jacket for her car keys to drive off into the wilderness. Not long after, Anna awakens to check up on Sergei, who is shouting for Irina due to his ongoing hallucination. In the other room, Polina is dreaming about the man she killed in her house as he coaxes her into taking advantage of Misha. Suddenly, the group awakens with the sound of bullets from the yard. Everyone hides and prepares to confront the intruders, only to find out it is a rowdy and drunk Boris making noise. He enters the room belligerently and starts blaming the two women for his son's predicament. The group restrains him when he attempts to force Anton to learn how to shoot a gun. Later, they reconvene in the dining area to discuss where Leonid fled, staying hopeful he would return. He does, moments later, accompanied by well-known veterinarian Auntie Olya, who offers her services to disinfect Sergei's wound with a staphylococcus antibiotic. The next morning, Anna frees a sober Boris from his restraints and lets him inside for breakfast. The remorseful old man asks for forgiveness as he joins the family. Meanwhile, Anton checks his dad's temperature as the women relax and clean up in the bathhouse. Misha is also there, daydreaming about Polina, but becomes embarrassed when she catches him in a dazed frenzy. As the boy steps outside, Igor knocks him out cold. Moments later, Leonid returns from bringing home Auntie Olya and discovers the entire convoy ransacked. He finds a wounded Misha and alerts Anna immediately. They storm Igor's house after suspecting him to be the culprit. The group is horrified to see him and an infected family, indicated by the whiteness of their eyes, feverishly eating their supplies. As the mother approaches them with a small hatchet, Leonid warns her to stay back while pointing the shotgun at her. With no other option, he pulls the trigger, much to his horror of Igor. Elsewhere, a pair of emergency medical technicians, Nikolai and Pavel, are driving on the road and discussing the ongoing outbreak on their way to a local hospital in Cherepovets City. Upon arriving, they see the building ruined from an attack, likely caused by infected patients. The pair walk inside the hallway and go straight through one of the doctor's offices, only to find the doctor had hung himself after the evacuation. They go under the basement and into an underground passageway, bumping into some looters that make Pavel drop his glasses. After finding the storage room, the men stock up on a drug called Evacine before hastily departing. Along the drive, Pavel thanks Nikolai for assisting him. The older MT is stunned by the young man's inept attitude toward attracting women, something that Pavel admits is his weakness. As they continue their conversation about women, Nikolai hits the brakes when he sees Anton in the middle of the road. Ira rushes over to save the boy, and Pavel apologizes, sensing an opportunity to get help from him. She asks the man to check Sergei's wounds. Though he fails to bring any medicine, he applies topical antibiotics to ease the pain. Ira helps Pavel improve his eyesight by applying contact lenses to show her appreciation. However, he becomes so flustered, visibly enamored by her beautiful face, that he falls to the ground while Ira applies the new lenses. He compliments her and requests a photo to remember her. The pair almost lean in for a kiss until Leonid arrives to get the group moving before darkness falls. Nikolai tells the group they are fleeing in the opposite direction to Vitegra, prompting Ira to bid farewell to Pavel. Before leaving, she asks if the outbreak will be over soon, but he responds that it has not even started yet. As the vehicles go their separate ways, Nikolai becomes aware of Pavel's infatuation with Ira. He explains the group's situation, saying that she is Sergei's ex-wife traveling with her son and the current partner who brought along her stepson. Pavel wonders how he knows this, which he reveals was said to him in confidence by Boris. Later, Anton sees Ira eat the vitamin C given to him by Pavel and demands it. Still, his broken-hearted mother dissuades him, leading to her accidentally hitting the boy and making him cry. Anton is so crushed that he insults his mother with a bad word. Shortly after, the group reached a bridge to Von Gozero, only to find out it had been destroyed for some unknown reason. This unfortunate situation forces them to turn back to the town of Vitegra. Meanwhile, the pair of MC reach Eden Karaoke Cafe to seek shelter from the owner, Natalie, who is dancing on her lonesome. Nikolai charms his way through her by dancing along. Meanwhile, The group gets one of the vehicles stuck in the snow, leading the men to pull it out with a rope, only to see it snap and force the van into a ditch. They try pushing it out with all their strength to no avail. Elsewhere, at the cafe, Nikolai tries convincing Pavel to loosen up and enjoy the night while they have dinner with Natalie. The young MT is more concerned with leaving, as he is anxious to deliver the Evazine to a sickly 10-year-old boy named Petya. Sometime later, the group rest in their respective vehicles while Misha explains the history of mass outbreaks in Russia. In the other car, Sergei reprimands Ira for punishing their son and drawing out all her anger at him. Their rift continues to widen as he reveals his disdain for her. Meanwhile, as Boris takes medicine, he sees a vehicle from a distance. As everyone arms up, they discover it is a tow truck driven by a friendly mute mechanic who offers to tow the van to his garage. The group is grateful for his hospitality, despite not being able to communicate with him properly. As they rest for the night inside the garage, Polina and Misha sneak out to have sex in the van. However, it ends quickly as the boy is inexperienced and accidentally finishes before her. The next morning, Pavel awakens Nikolai after spending the night with Natalie. Before leaving, the man bids her farewell to her but promises to return after he takes Pavel to the hospital. Meanwhile, Anna awakens at the tow truck garage and gives Anton paper to draw on. As she steps outside, she is horrified to see the men siphon fuel from the mute man's tank without permission. As she angrily berates Sergei, Leonid chastises her for her actions in Igor's house, revealing that she pulled the trigger and killed the infected mother in self-defense. As he and Sergei argue, the mute mechanic returns and sees what they are doing. He shows his disgust by spitting on the ground, prompting the group to leave. Elsewhere, Nikolai and Pavel arrive at a bridge blocked by Vitegra, townsfolk who are seeking medicine and supply. Upon revealing there are some inside the truck, they begin to loot everything inside, much to Pavel's protest. A skirmish begins as some of the citizens strike the imps with ice picks, ultimately killing Nikolai. Fortunately, Sergei's group arrives and sees the commotion from afar, prompting Ira to retrieve the rifle and start shooting to make the men disperse. She hurriedly rescues a badly beaten Pavel, who is heartbroken to see Nikolai lying dead next to him. With Sergei's help, they bring him inside the truck as Ira tries to stop the bleeding and worries for his survival. Simultaneously, Anton steps out of the vehicle upon seeing a stranger walk up and stare at him. He flees to the woods temporarily but returns to discover the convoy has left him behind due to the urgency of Pavel's injury. The boy wanders on the road calling out for his mother, but it is too late.